You were never the fool. You were simply someone who loved without expecting anything in return. They wanted you to disappear, but your heart left an indelible mark they can't erase. You were never a fool for loving them. You were a beacon of light in their darkness. Their words tried to define your worth, but your love will always shine brighter than their judgment. You were the truth they couldn't face, the love they couldn't embrace, and the fool they didn't deserve. They pushed you away, but your love will forever chase them, even in their darkest hours. You weren't foolish for loving them. They were foolish for rejecting a love that never asked for anything. They wanted you to leave, but now they'll live with the absence of a love they can't replace. They said you were a fool, but in reality, it was their fear of love that made them blind. Your love was a gift. Their rejection was their curse. The fool isn't the one who loves. It's the one who chooses her over connection. They wanted you gone, but the truth is, they'll never escape the love you gave them. They tell you to disappear, but what they really want is for you to come back and save them. You're not a fool. You're the lesson they'll never forget, even if they try to. They'll regret calling you a fool when they realize what they lost. You love them with the purity of a heart that never asked for anything in return. They told you to leave, but now they'll live with the echo of a love they can't let go of. You weren't a fool. You were simply ahead of their brokenness, loving them when no one else could. They wanted you gone, but deep down, they always knew they'd never find anyone like you again. You weren't foolish for loving them. You were wise for knowing that love always finds its way back. The love you gave them was too pure for their shattered heart to handle. You may be gone, but your love will always remain, hidden in the corners of their soul. You weren't a fool for loving them. You were just the only one brave enough to show them how. They said you were a fool, but in truth, it's their broken heart that's the true fool. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. You were never a fool. You were just too much love for a person who didn't know how to handle it. They wanted you to leave, but now they'll wonder what might have been. The fool is the one who rejects a love that could have healed their soul. You were never a fool for loving them. You were a warrior who gave everything, only to be misunderstood. They wanted you to disappear, but now they'll face a life of longing for the love they rejected. You weren't a fool. You were the one who loved them the way they needed, even when they didn't see it. They pushed you away, but your love will haunt them, whispering truths they never understood. The fool isn't the one who loves. It's the one who can't see love when it's staring them in the face. They called you a fool, but they were the one who couldn't recognize what you brought to their life. Your love was the gift they never knew how to open, and now it's too late. You were never foolish. You were just the one who saw them for what they could be, not what they were. They tell you to disappear, but your absence will leave a hole they can never fill. You loved them with all your heart, but their heart was too closed to receive it. You weren't a fool for loving them. You were simply the mirror they were afraid to look into. They said you were a fool, but you were the truth they never had the courage to accept. They pushed you away, but now they'll always be haunted by the love they thought they could dismiss. You were never a fool. You were the calm in their storm that they couldn't appreciate. They wanted you gone, but your love will follow them like an unshakable shadow. You were never a fool. You were the kind of love they'll never find again. The one who pushes love away is always the one who ends up alone. My dear, you were never a fool. You were simply too real for their fragile world. They call you a fool because they fear the truth in your love will expose their lies. When someone tells you to disappear, it's their way of saying they can't handle the light you bring. You weren't a fool. You were the heart that loved too much for a heart that didn't deserve it. They wanted you gone, but deep down, they wished for your presence, even as they pushed you away. Love doesn't make you a fool. It reveals who's truly blind to its power. You were never a fool. You were just too much of a mirror for them to look into. Sometimes, the ones who call you a fool are the ones who don't understand what it's like to truly love. They think you're a fool for staying, but they're the ones who'll never know what loyalty looks like. The more they told you to disappear, the more you realized their own emptiness reflected in your love. They tell you to go, but their silence screams the pain they can't express. You were never a fool for loving them. They were a fool for thinking they didn't need you. When they push you away, it's their way of protecting the fragile walls they built around their heart. You loved with honesty, and they couldn't handle it. That's why they called you a fool. They wanted you gone, but their heart was still aching for what it lost. You weren't a fool. You were a heart too strong to break, even by the coldest of words. A fool doesn't see the truth. You saw it all, and that's why they pushed you away. Their words tried to define you, but you were far more than their limited vision allowed. The more they pushed you, the more they proved they were the fools all along. A fool stays in one place. You were willing to move mountains just for their love. The real fool was the one who didn't see the treasure you were offering them. They say you're a fool for staying, but what they never realize is you stayed for them, not for you. You're not a fool. You're the last hope they pushed away in fear of their own brokenness. They tell you to disappear, but their heart aches for the love they can't have back. You may be gone, but your absence will haunt them like the ghost of the love they never valued. The only fool was the one who never recognized how rare your love truly was. When they called you a fool, they were just projecting the guilt of rejecting someone who loved them deeply. You weren't foolish for loving them. You were courageous for staying when they pushed you away. They didn't deserve your love, and now they realize it only when you're gone. Sometimes the one who leaves is the one who was never truly gone to begin with. You were never a fool. You were simply too ahead of the game for them to understand. They wanted you gone, but what they didn't realize is that they'll never be free of your love. They called you a fool, but in truth, they were too afraid to let love show them how to be strong. The moment they told you to leave, they made a grave mistake that they'll regret forever. The fool isn't the one who loved. It's the one who couldn't recognize real love when it was in front of them. You weren't a fool. You were just someone who loved so deeply it scared them. You may be out of their life, but your love still lives inside them, quietly tormenting their heart. Their words will fade, but the love you gave them will never disappear. You were never foolish for loving them. Their inability to love you is what made them the fool. You were not a fool, my dear. You were just too pure for the darkness they couldn't face. You may have left, but their heart will always remember what it lost. They pushed you away, but love never truly leaves. It haunts, it lingers, it waits. They wanted you gone, but they'll soon realize how empty their life became in your absence. You weren't a fool for staying, you were a warrior for love, and they couldn't fight their own fears. They wanted you to disappear, but your memory will echo through their life forever. The fool wasn't the one who loved, it was the one who didn't know how to. They never saw the value of your love until they found themselves alone in the dark. The real fool is the one who pushes away someone who would have stayed forever. You were never a fool. You were simply the one who believed love could heal them. The more they pushed you, the more they unknowingly pulled away the last chance they had at true love. They told you to disappear, but now they're the ones who can't escape the memories. You loved them without hesitation. They loved you only when it was convenient for them. They wanted you gone, but their heart still whispers your name when the night is quiet. You may be a fool to them, but to the universe, you were the perfect love they never deserved. They wanted you out, but now they've lost the only love they'll never find again.